So we have a hashtag for today. So if you're on LinkedIn, any other social media, Twitter, anything like that, our hashtag for this event is hashtag Countryside Experience Kent. So if you can use that, that would be fantastic, and we'll be tweeting that. And really, the purpose of today's webinar is threefold. It's about inspiration. It's about giving you some inspiration and get you excited about potentially creating a new product for your business. But it's also about ideas, generating ideas, and you'll hear some case studies and some other areas and topics that we think are really trending out there and are real opportunities. And it will also give you that information to think about how you might create an experience, and also about this development scheme that we have just launched, this Kent Downs and North Downs Way Countryside Development Scheme. And I hope it will encourage you to make an application to that scheme. So, an outline of the webinar. I'll do some introductions, and I've hopefully given you a warm welcome. I will talk a bit about why in the Kent Downs and the North Downs Way we think experiences are really important. Chris will talk to you about what makes a great experience with some case studies, which hopefully will help you think about some of those ideas. And then we'll talk about the programmes and the next steps. And then Q&As, like I say, pop them in the chat, or we'll come to them at the end. Introduction. So I'm Rebecca from the Kent Downs AONB. I'm the Business and Engagement Manager. And so this is really what I do, try and work with businesses and support you to develop new products that take place in the Kent Downs and really connect people to the landscape. I'm joined on the call by Michaela Thomas, who is our Tourism Project Officer for the Experience Project. I'm also joined by Charlie Lewis, who is our Marketing and Comms Officer. Catherine Bradley is also with us from the AONB, who's really responsible for the management and development of the Experience Project. And Pete Morris is also with us somewhere from the North Downs Way Manager. So hopefully that's got us all covered. And between us, we have worked in tourism and with the North Downs Way and the landscapes for many years. So we can really help support you with this. So why experiences, and why are we particularly keen to encouraging experiences in the Kent Downs? And we think it's because the Kent Downs are a protected landscape, and we balance that with it being a real tourism asset. So it's this combination of being a fantastic place and fantastic experiences, when they come together, create something really special within the Kent Downs. The Kent Downs is a protected landscape, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about that, which means it's an exceptional example of the character and the beauty that is protected internationally and important internationally, with the protection for all. And that's on a similar par with national parks, so we have the same protection there. There are 49 in England, and we have the Kent Downs here. Also in Surrey is the Surrey Hills AONB. And then there's one other protected landscape in Kent, which is the High Weald AONB, and you can see them there. The Kent Downs itself covers about a quarter of Kent. And the purpose of this designation is to conserve and enhance the natural beauty of the landscape. That's the primary purpose. We also have a secondary purpose, though, which is to help and support people enjoy the countryside, and also to take account of those people who live and work in the countryside, whether that's agriculture, forestry, tourism, and other rural businesses. And so really understand the economic and social needs of those communities as well. The Kent Downs also is important because whilst about 96,000 people live in the area, of course, because of the proximity of London, we have about 1 million people who live within under an hour travelling distance into the AONB. And that also means that we've got fantastic links to London. So really, it's that proximity of London, brilliant travel links, which means that you can get out of the great smoke and the big city, out up onto the downs and enjoy that tranquility, you know, with under an hour. But obviously that's brilliant for getting people out, but that can in some cases cause some pressure. And I think COVID has particularly, we've seen some of that in some of the really highly visited sites. So it's balancing all those needs. The Kent Downs is designated because of its significant characteristics, and that's really around, you know, the geology that has created special landforms and these magnificent views, including the White Cliffs, which has worldwide recognition, but also some of those landscapes and features and habitats contribute to biodiversity. So, you know, examples of the rare chalk grasslands supporting some species that you may only find in Kent and other areas, for example. And then there's also the long history and cultural heritage, that the evidence of man's interaction with the landscape since prehistoric times. So you have the tangible evidence of that, from archaeology through to churches, you know, lovely castles, all the way through to World War II history. But there's also that intangible heritage and inspiration it's given artists and writers and scientists throughout time. And that's really what makes this landscape special and important. But of course, it's also a living landscape, and 3/4 of the land is actually farmed. So that arable, different mixed farming and that pastoral landscape is another important part of the character of the Kent Downs. That geology creates fantastic conditions for viticulture and vineyards in the area, but we also have so many orchards that Kent is known for. So that farming landscape and the people who live and work in those landscapes is really important. The thriving villages and the local life, those farmers markets, and all that produce that people like Produced in Kent promote. We get a huge amount of visitors. We estimate we get about 20 million visitors a year, which is actually about 1/3 of the visitors that Kent gets overall. And that supports many small businesses such as yourselves, attractions and the restaurants and the cafe and accommodation, which of course are having such a difficult time at the moment. And we hope that Experiences might help you build that back and help with that recovery. The North Downs Way is another key asset that runs through the county. It runs all the way from Farnham in Kent. It goes through the Surrey Hills AONB and it comes through the Kent Downs. Then you can see there, it loops at the end, round, so encompasses Dover and Canterbury. And it is one of 15 national long distance trails, which are again designated by the government. And it means they've got quality standards that they meet with their way marking and their routes. And our North Downs Way goes through so many different landscapes and it has so many walks around it, that it's really a key asset for us. And there's also a really long heritage and history of walking through the landscape all the way from Neolithic times and encompassing some of those pilgrimage routes such as the Pilgrim's Way or the Via Francigena or St Augustine's Way. So all of that sort of long heritage of walking through the county, of which the North Downs Way is a really high quality example of that. So that's really been a snapshot really of the Kent Downs and why it is significant, and that's given you a glimpse of the specialness, but also the tourism asset that is a protected landscape and the North Downs Way. And we do want to encourage greater enjoyment and engagement of that landscape, and we do want to bring economic benefits. But there is a balance there, and that's why we feel that Experiences are essentially sustainable tourism, and that's why we want to encourage them. Experiences are about creating economic environment. So we hope that will show you that the bringing together of the special place and the experiences in it can create something really quite special. So with this in mind, I'm going to come on now to our options analysis report, because we knew that experiences, you can see here, it's a global trend. It has been increasing. Experiential tourism has been a trend that's been increasing for a few years. And those authentic, immersive experiences, we really wanted to see how we could, how that global trend could work within somewhere like the Kent Downs. And there are various trends and insights that report has come out with that I'm just going to run through them with you now. Engaging with the countryside, I think, we know that over the last year or so, that recognition of the countryside and walking in it, and that connection to nature has really grown. And there's also something reassuring about having that space, that physical space, but also that space to, to think and to breathe, and for people's mental health. So that's really become more important over the last year. There is a trend for transformational travel. So an intentional travel to, find yourself or find or discover something about yourself. So an added purpose to your journey or your visit. And that ties in very nicely with this cultural heritage of pilgrimage, and maybe bringing that to the fore as a personal rather than a spiritual journey. People are valuing local talent, the local community, their passions, their expertise, the fantastic pubs and the beers that we brew, and all of that. That people really want to get involved in that and feel like local. Traveling together. COVID has separated people and separated families, and people want to start visiting together. So that might be in smaller groups with friends, or multi-generational bubbles, they're called, and people really want to start doing that as and when we can. Under tourism, so again, finding those places that people don't necessarily know about, and being able to potentially tell your friends about them, but moving away from some of those mass visited sites. Ecotourism, Greta Thunberg, again, if your business can be seen to be more sustainable, then people are looking for that. More environmentally friendly ways of traveling, slow tourism, people are really looking for that. Food and drink is just a given. It's part of the experience. It's not fuel. It's part of what makes that whole journey. And the value of local people as ambassadors, as businesses or individuals who can really talk about what they value about the landscape and how they work in it. And we know, particularly in Kent, there is a desire for this, and there is a gap there, an opportunity. Just looking at one of the main platforms, Airbnb experiences, out of 1,400 UK experiences, there are 33 in Kent and only 2 within the AONB. So there is room there to grow. Just taking some of the core, so looking at those trends and saying, well, what sort of experiences could we develop in the North Downs Way and the Kent Downs? One of these is, of course, a core experience around walking and cycling. And Kent has got about 4 times the diversity of footpaths that other counties have. So we are really well placed for our walking and cycling activity. But what turns a walk into an experience? And a great walk, you can see there that the walk is now not enough. People want to combine that walk with historic attractions, or famous places, or rural life, all of these things that I've just been talking about. So it's not just about walking through a landscape, it's exploring that landscape and the story behind it and why it's there, what the inspiration is, and it's bringing that alive. It's stopping off at producers or vineyards. You could be on the North Downs Way walking past a vineyard and not know that you can go into it and have a tour or experience there. And it's cake in a tea room, it's lunch in a pub. But then it's also not just going on that walk, it's meeting local people, it's going to a local pub and talking to them and finding out about how their life works. So that's taking, our core experience, if you like, turning it and expanding it into something more. Some of the other opportunities and gaps that were highlighted by our report, and Chris is going to have some case studies on some of these, so I won't talk about them in too much detail. But besides the walking and tourism, it's picking up on that well-being trend, but it's well-being in the landscape. So it's taking it out of those particularly, traditional spa and health club environments, and it's taking it out. So forest bathing, yoga on the beach, mindfulness walks, all these sorts of things, taking that and connecting it to the environment and to nature. That farming landscape, the day life of farming is actually really attractive to someone who may well be, and especially at the moment, having been in an office or a home office for many months, being able to experience life on a farm is really attractive. And of course, as I've said, we have lots of that here, being green, sustainability, food and drink, but again, it's traceable, sustainable food and drink. It's where does my food come from and how do I connect that with what I'm eating on my plate. Hidden heritage, finding those places that are much less known. We have fantastic, iconic heritage attractions in Kent, but we also have an awful lot of other heritage and churches and archaeology and those, as I say, those stories that we can tell people. And animals and nature, everyone loves animals, and connecting, whether that's horse riding or llama walking or all sorts of things. Connecting, we know that people, animal experiences are really important, but also nature, things that you may do as part of a guided tour anyway, things that people are really wanting to learn about as well, and to getting some of that as part of their experience. So thank you. That was a quick run through our options appraisal, which hopefully has shown you some of those trends and themes that we're really seeking. And I can now pass over to Chris, who'll talk more to you about designing an experience.
Thanks, Rebecca. Hello and good morning, everybody. And great to see so many of you on the call today. So I'm just going to do the sharing the screen. So you should be able to start seeing my presentation now. Rebecca, if you stop sharing, that would be great. And
has that done it?
Thumbs up that you can see my presentation. All good? Rebecca, can you see my presentation?
I can see yours, yes. I'm just, can you see mine, or is mine gone?
That's good, good.
Right.
Morning, everybody. I'm Chris. I'm from Unmissable England. We're an organisation that helps small to medium-sized businesses right across regional England create their very best unmissable experiences. So it's great to be here today in front of you guys to kind of give you all kind of my experience of running experiences, but also what I've done with businesses across many different landscapes in England. So Unmissable England, as I said, is an organisation to help and support businesses. So we work from Cornwall up to the Lake District in creating those experiences. And just some background on my experience. So I've worked for the Downs AONB. I was tourism and communications manager there for several years. I've worked for 9 different national parks, again from Exmoor up to Northumberland, and I was the project lead there for creating the National Park Experience Collection. So that was a collection of around about 70 immersive experiences that told the story of our national parks and those protected landscapes and the stories around people and place. And those 70 experiences were then marketed to the German, Australian and North American trade before COVID, and now that project is now being adapted for the UK domestic consumer. We'll hear more about as an example, more about the National Park Experience Collection, because there's a lot we can learn in this project from what's already been done in the national parks, but also across other protected landscapes as well. So unmissableengland.com, just to give you an idea of what else we do as an organisation. We have experiences on our website, which are day or half-day experiences right across regional England. So these are the experiences that tend to happen in national parks, AONBs, or the countryside generally, kind of the special qualities of our landscapes across England. So we host experiences and we sell them through that platform. But what I'm here today is to talk to you about experiential tourism and how to create an experience, but also the learning from all the different businesses that I've worked with and how to create the best unmissable experience. So the slide you see there on the screen, a quote there from the Canadian Tourist Commission: "A tourism product is what you buy, a tourism experience is what you remember." And it's about those memories and creating those memories that's really key. And that's what we want to be able to do in all the experiences that we have right across the Kent Downs AONB and the North Downs Way. And this example here, the pictures on the screen, you'll see Haddon Hall in Derbyshire in the Peak District. This is one of the national park experiences where you get to bake bread, but also make pizzas and bake the pizzas in one of the oldest ovens in England, possibly the world, probably England, but that quote there, baking bread in one of the oldest ovens in England, is a memory I'll never forget. That's a real quote there from a real person on that experience. And that's the kind of thing we're looking for, those real kind of memories when creating an experience. So as I said, experiential tourism provides a new layer of opportunities, really, well beyond the traditional landscape of products based on goods and services. An experience actively involves visitors to partake in what they're doing with a hands-on activity, create those memories, and the opportunity to engage with the local stories, the culture, the community, and really connect with the landscape and the people. And this is a real opportunity to branch out your business, especially this time with COVID, once we are able to open up again to the domestic audience and to hopefully to the international market one day, because this is such a growing, and there's more and more demand for visitors looking for these kind of experience that really connects with the physical landscape and the physical assets and components and resources to connect those things with the emotional connection with our visitors. And I'm going to kind of break down all that now into the next few slides. So these are the 4 components that make good experiences: resources, products, services, local stories, and people. So starting with the resources, Rebecca's highlighted so many about the special qualities of the AONB and the National Trail there. So it's the footpaths, the trails, the cycle routes, these are all assets, these are all resources. The chalk ridges, the rivers, the heritage coast, it's these assets that really are the backbone to a good experience. And we've got them in Kent, so that's great. So you're off to a good start. We've also got the traditional products as well. These are the accommodation providers through hotels, B&Bs, the attractions, farm parks, restaurants and pubs, towns and communities, the living landscape of the AONB. So these products also kind of link in, and many of you on the call today will be from these traditional kind of tourism products as well. And it's great that you've got these 2 things, the resources and products, already. The third part is the services. So this is the luggage transfers, the classic tour guides, the public transport, and any cycle hire as well. So these are the kind of add-on component, which are the services. And then the final chapter, the final component, is the local stories and the people, the culture, the conservation, the nature, and the communities that bring all those things together into creating a really immersive experience. So to give you an example of a business, it could be a vineyard. For example, the assets very much around the grapes, the produce that you produce on the vineyard. And from those grapes, your asset, your resource, you then create wine, obviously. And they're your goods, and it's those goods that you particularly sell. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about branching out, because you then branch out into maybe some wine tasting and that kind of tour around the vineyard and taste some of the wine. But there's so much more you can do than just the classic tour. You can turn that into a really immersive experience where guests get to pick the grapes and see the whole process and really engage in that process, of picking the grapes and making the wine. They can help with possibly if it's a small production and with the vineyard. They can bottle the wine and get involved in that as well. And actually, pairing up the wines with the local food and drink and bringing in the local farmer and telling that landscape story. That's what creates a really immersive experience. So it's kind of adding from the assets, goods and the services, that kind of final chapter experiences can really help a tourism tourism business by adding a new tourism product, which is experiences. And that brings us real growth for your business. So again, using the vineyard example here, you can see that the grapes and the goods and services, and then pairing it up with an experience with the local food and the whole immersive feeling, can basically economically grow your business as well, because you're then adding that experience. And those customers coming on your experience, whether they're from the UK or they're coming from further afield, they're going to sign up to your newsletter. They're going to hopefully take away some wine. They might have deliveries of their wine to you from you as well. So it's those kind of ongoing growth things that you're doing by just having that experience as well. But also there's a real opportunity to work with other businesses in developing that experience at the end. So a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between your classic tour to an experience? So I'm going to give you an example here. These four guys you see on the screen are from Portland in America. This is back in the summer of 2019, way before COVID-19. And these guys have booked a scone making experience in the Cotswolds AONB. This is a scone making experience that lasts for 2.5 hours. It retails at £68 per person. So they booked right ahead before traveling to Europe, and they had various things they were planning to do right across Europe, in France, Italy, but also in England. I think they were visiting the Lake District after the Cotswolds. And this 2.5-hour experience is where they step inside a listed old cottage, a thatched cottage, a stone-built cottage in the Cotswolds. They hear about all the ancestry of the cottage going right back to 1841. They see some of the restoration process being taken place in the cottage because it's been recently restored. And then they get to make their scones using the traditional recipe, using old traditional utensils, and they make those scones themselves in the kitchen. They obviously got being led by doing that as well. They're not completely on their own, but they're making their own cream tea basically. And while the scones are baking, it's a guided walk around a stone village, visiting a 13th century church, ruins of an old castle. And when they come back, they step back into the kitchen, and as you see, the cream tea then is laid out for them to enjoy. They also get to take the recipe card home, and there's lots of Instagram moments in that experience. I know that experience particularly well because it's actually one of my own. It's actually here in my own house. So we were lucky enough to, myself and my partner, purchase or buy a listed building 6-7 years ago, and repair it and restore it over those 6 years, which we continue to do. So this was a nice little way of bringing in some extra cash throughout the summer and also throughout the winter months as well, because we've seen a real growth in kind of the lower season being picked up by experiences as well. And it's a great way to meet people as well. So this experience, as I said, has done particularly well. It retails at £68 for 2.5 hours. And I think it's very much the people, place and activity that makes this different than your classic tour. So for example, the people, you know, I'm not necessarily a tour guide, but these people are meeting a local person. So they come into the Cotswolds, they're meeting me, they're stepping into my house. So it's that kind of local aspect that they're engaging with, and that kind of makes it different from your classic tour. It's also the place, the activity as well. So the place, the place is that it's a privately owned home. So it's behind the scenes. So most visitors, most tourists wouldn't get access to doing this. So it's something quite unique and quite special. And then the third part, as I said, is the activity. In this case, it was the making the scones, the baking the scones, and the guided walk. And it's those three elements that really make an experience different to your classic tour. And I'll come on a bit more detail about that shortly. Here's my 5 top tips in creating the best experience. And at number 1, it's the story, and this is really, really key in developing the experience. And again, it's what makes your traditional tour different. Your traditional tour different from your experience. So, for example, this is Kevin, who has an experience up on Hadrian's Wall in Northumberland National Park, and Kevin was one of the businesses I've worked with the national parks, and we worked with him to develop this Live Like a Roman experience along Hadrian's Wall. So as you see there, Kevin's dressed up as a Roman, even that he looks a bit like a Viking, and he takes his guests. So his guests typically are a group of 6 to 8 people, so quite a small group of people, and he takes them along the landscape through Hadrian's Wall country in the national park, and he interprets the whole story of living like a Roman. That's his story, and he tells that story well. And like all good stories, it has a start, middle, and end. And through that story, he's in a costume, but you also get to eat and drink like a Roman soldier. And I can tell you, I've done this experience. The food isn't particularly great because it is fully immersive about living in the Roman times and being a Roman soldier. So, but it is super fun, and it's something that you kind of want to go home and tell your friends. And before you do that, you kind of share that on Instagram and Facebook, etc. as well. So having a story in your experience is really vital. So what you'll need to do, and this is what we'll do during the workshops and support that we'll give you if you do choose to sign up on the project, is we'll give you that support in creating that story and how to tell that story. And once you have that story, make sure you stick to the story. At 2, guests get hungry. This is an experience on the Broads, and like all good experiences, locally sourced food and drink, and yeah, Kent has a lot, the AONB has a lot. So it's great to include food and drink, as Rebecca said at the start of the presentation, to include that in your experience. And again, this is what makes an experience different to your classic tour. There's no hidden extras or costs built in. You're not taking guests to a pub and then expecting them to get their wallet out and pay for their meal. It's all included in that one experience fee. So if your experience is half day, we recommend that you pop in maybe some coffee, a snack, a cake, something that's locally produced into your experience. It's a great way to engage with your visitors. It's a great way to choose, and tell stories about the produce that comes from the land and talk all about that. If your experience is a full day, then most definitely include a lunch. That could be a picnic in the landscape. That could be supporting one of our local pubs and going to the local pub for some local grub, with a local beer or wine, and telling that story through the food as well. You might actually have a foodie experience, and that's very much part of the whole story of your experience. But we really do, kind of think food and drink is such a good way to tell your experience, and it helps guests to really relax on your experience as well. At 3, it's the unexpected. It's the surprise element in your experience. So this is the picture you see on the screen is one of the national park rangers up in the Lake District National Park on Lake Windermere. So Lake Windermere traditionally has many tourism products, from boat hire to boat trips to big steamer boats. So it's quite a saturated market. When I was working for the national parks, we looked at how we could fill that gap and create a much more immersive experience, where we took a group of up to 4 people, so quite a small group, out on the lake, led by a national park ranger. And you get to go around the lake, dock on some of the special islands that only the national park rangers get to access. So a really special experience. But the unexpected element of that, the surprise element of that experience, is that you really are the national park ranger for the day. So you get to actually drive the boat and actually dock the boat on some of the special islands. And I've done this experience 3 times. I'm going to tell you, every time it's brilliant. It is just really, really good. and it's a nice small group of 4 people because it's a small boat, so it's fully immersive and you get to know the ranger really well, and they tell all the brilliant stories about the protection of the landscape, the conservation work, the wildlife, the nature. That's all embedded. So whatever your experience might be, it's always good to include a little bit of a surprise, something your guest might be not expecting on their experience. And it also creates great social media moments as well. At 4, as well as the unexpected, it's good to include something that is more expected. And this could be quintessentially what you would expect from a visit to Kent or to England, Britain. And this could be going to a classic pub, having a beer, glass of wine, a ploughman's lunch, a picnic, fish and chips on the beach or in the countryside. And it's those kind of things that visitors look for. And I think this works particularly well with an international market, particularly with a North American market. They want to experience these quintessentially English things. And they want to have them done particularly well, and they want to have that locally sourced food and know the story behind that produce as well. But it's actually, from COVID, people are looking for these really comforting things as well, and really friendly, approachable things. So this actually lends itself really well once we're able to do these experiences again to a domestic audience, and have these smaller groups where we are doing these kind of more quintessentially English type of things within the experience. So don't be afraid to do these kind of things. I think they're going to be even more popular as we come out of throughout the pandemic. And at 5, please keep it simple and be flexible. Every group, and if you do tours or experiences already, you'll know every group is completely different. So you might have a group of a family group that's particularly quiet or really, really chatty, and your time frame of your experience might run over, it might run really quickly. You've done the whole day experience in an hour. You kind of got to be very flexible when you're delivering any experience. You might have multi-mixed groups of people, so you might be taking your bookings in the future from various sources, various websites and platforms, and so you might have a real mix of people. Which is great, but you might find also that those mix of people, they want to get to know each other because they're all from different parts of the country or around the world. So again, you need to be flexible in your timing as well. And a good example of that, this is the Peak District National Park, and this is the Blue John Stones caves and caverns near Castleton, right in the heart of the park. And this is another one of the national park experiences that we developed. And traditionally, the Blue John Stones took, for generations, have taken small groups around the caves where you can go behind the scenes and see the caves. And they've worked particularly a lot with school groups, and they offer a very good tour. I think it retails around about £8. So we, as part of the National Parks project, we worked with the caves and the family there and the staff there to develop an experience. So on this experience, you still get to go around the caves, but you also get to mine a piece of Blue John stone. This is the Blue John stone. It's the only type, this particular type of stone, that can be found anywhere in the world. So it's really, really special. And you get to mine a piece as well, and you get to take a piece home, which is nice, a small piece. And then from that caving and mining, you get to then polish that piece of Blue John stone in a workshop and see how that's done. You get that hands-on experience, and then you get to make it into a piece of jewelry, which you then get to take home as well. So a really special experience. It tells the story of the geology, the landscape, but that hands-on activity of the polishing of the stone and making that stone into a piece of jewelry. And because this is a full day experience, teas, coffees, a picnic lunch, packed lunch, sorry, is all included within that fee. No one's being expected to kind of bring their own packed lunch or go off site and get their own lunch. That's all included in that one fee when they're booking that experience. So that's the Blue John Stones experience. They're looking to run that experience again for the domestic consumer and international consumer going forward. They're super eager to get going again now they've developed that experience. So I'm going to take you through some, just a very short video now, just to give you some examples of some experiences, what others have done in the country. And first of all, we're going to have a look at as I mentioned, about the national parks project. 70 experiences were created across 9 of England's national parks, and this will just give you a flavour, a sense of some of the experiences that were developed for the travel trade, but also for consumers.
Discover the beauty of the ancient English countryside. Full of stories, full of surprises, full of life. There's an adventure for everyone, and a warm local welcome. Meet those who live and work the land, and breathe thousands of years of living history. Explore the extraordinary and the everyday with the English National Park Experience Collection.
That gives you some idea of the types of experiences that have already been developed in some other of the protected landscapes here in England, and I'm sure there's going to be many more added to that collection of experiences as well. So it's going to take you through some case studies now, some examples of what others are doing right across the country, and sticking to the national parks, the South Downs, so not far away. This is another one of the national park ranger experiences, so a real countryside experience. And on this experience, you get to go on board the National Park Ranger Land Rover and get to kind of go off the beaten track and the special places that only the ranger really knows of. Again, you can see myself there on that on that picture. So this is another one of the experiences I've done, and it's a really nice experience. And because it's on board the Land Rover, it is a small group as well, so a fully immersive experience. It's a 4-hour experience. It retails just at £60 per person. That includes a picnic lunch. So the ranger actually goes off to a local bakery just before the experience and buys Scotch eggs and those kind of things, and a kind of a pasty and fruit and drinks, and that's all in a really nice picnic basket, which you then sample and eat enjoy on the landscape there. So it's that whole telling the story. We did something simple as monitoring butterflies on one of the days of the experiences, and I remember having the conversation with the rangers saying, this is my job, this is what I do, this is why would a visitor want to do this? And actually, that was a real highlight of the experience, spotting, going around a field with a clipboard, spotting the various different butterflies and logging them and listing them on a particular chart, and there was so many varieties, and hearing the story about these butterflies was truly fascinating. So something as very typical in someone's job might be really interesting, and probably is interesting for a visitor to come and learn and have a go at doing. So don't be afraid to, if you do a similar kind of job or like that, is to think about actually how can I actually tell the story of what I do in my job by my visitors actually having a go at doing something like that. So that's, as I said, it's a 4-hour ranger experience. and it also visits a local brewery as well, so you get a bit of a sample of a drink, and there's a chance to buy the beer as well from one of the shops at the brewery, which is a great way of supporting local businesses. So we really encourage that kind of work as well within your experience. Taking up to Yorkshire, this is the Wensleydale experience. This is a real farming experience. So with many farms across the AONB and along and around the National Trail, we know farming experience is something that we're keen to see in working here in this project. And more they're becoming popular with families and groups and individuals as well. So this, again, is a reasonable experience for £65 per person for 6 hours, and you get to be the farmer for the day. You do a bit of dry stone walling, so you understand about the kind of the farming culture and the landscape there, and then you get to have a picnic, or if it's wet, you have it indoors in the farmer's house, and then you have some of the samples of meat, and there's also a vegetarian option as well within that experience. But it's very much about that Wensleydale, the connection with cheese and sheep in that experience. So again, a really popular experience. These guys have been running that experience for a few years now, and they're just seeing that more and more popular and that growth. So there's a real opportunity if you are a farming business or a landowner to think about the farming experience in your part of the world. Going to see another video now. This is one a little bit more local to us. This is Martin, who does a fungus foray experience.
I'm Martin Newcombe, and we are sitting here in Westwood on top of the Downs. Westwood's a fantastic place for me. I've been fungus foraying here for probably the last 30 years. We've now got well over 1,000 species here. Children are lovely to work with when they're up on the Downs. I'll let them loose, and they will go out and find fungi quicker than the adults will. So typically with children, we decide to bring out some of the strange things, the folklore. So we talk about fungi that walk after dark, or so people used to think. We talk about honey fungus, which glows after dark. The first place I've got to go to is to my little favourite patch up on the North Downs, not far between Sittingbourne and Maidstone, where there is a little wood, and you can get into that wood. You can immerse yourself all day if you want to. You won't hear a car. You'll hear birds, you'll see mammals, even deer and badgers in daylight. And personally, as somebody who was born in Kent, I think it's the jewel in our crown. But one of the nice things is that basically fungi get people going. They come to me on a fungus walk going, well, yeah, we're interested. They go away having learned all about the folklore, the biology, the ecology, the smells, fungi that smell of fish, or fungi that smell of Wright's coal tar soap, or fungi that smell like you've just stood in something nasty that the dog's left behind, and so on and so forth. And that's what I really enjoy, when people get really excited and discover something new. Because I'm still finding something new, so I understand and share the joy of new stuff.
It's great to hear Martin's experience there, and you know, that's a nice local product that's already taking place and happening there. So, but it's through Martin's knowledge and skills and experience, really telling that story is really key to that experience. Sticking with the world of foraging, and this is a wild cooking and foraging experience up in Northumberland. Again, this one actually featured on the Robson Green program on Channel 5 recently, where you actually get to go foraging and get to taste with your guide, really get to taste some of the nature, if you like, through that experience, and having a wild food picnic. So this is a shorter experience. It's 3 hours for £60, and you also around about 8 people on this experience, but a really popular trend at the moment, foraging and wild cooking, as I'm sure you know, and a real opportunity to grow that story around those kind of things. Sticking with produce and food and drink, this is a South Downs experience, one that's really popular and been running for a couple of years now. A 4-hour experience at £65. Hills, heath, hops and hampers, so it does what it says on the experience. So you have the local expert, and Rich really is a local expert. He really knows his geography very well and the landscape, and has led tours and experiences all over the world, up mountains and all sorts. So he really knows the Downs, South Downs particularly well, and he takes you to the special places that he knows, and he has those stories around that landscape, connecting it back from the landscape into those produce stories, and you enjoy a picnic. And again, I'm going to keep saying this is one of the experiences I've done, and it's great because you get to have that view, that picture happens on every experience. The weather might be slightly different, but on most days you get some view, but you enjoy that picnic, and whatever the weather's like, it's just a really special experience. And Rich is a great experience lead. And like another one of the experiences we mentioned before, there is also a brewery tour included in the experience as well, connecting that story with the produce as well. I'm going to show you another video now though. We're going to take you to a woodland experience by Mark here in the Kent AONB.
I'm Mark Sage. I'm the owner and manager of this woodland. I've always made things. I enjoy making things, and I enjoy teaching. I enjoy the teaching because I love seeing the progression of people turning up with a sort of almost a fear of what they're about to try and do, and then at the end of the day, amazed when they leave with a product that they've actually created with their own hands. And it gives me a great excuse to spend the entire day out in the trees, away from the town, away from the houses, and away from the cars and the busyness of everything, and kind of recenter or sort of reset my level, kind of calm down. Delegates who've been here before have described it as the best mindfulness session they've ever had. Based session, come here and do something, create something. We're hardwired to make and explore. I think everything from 8-year-olds to 80-year-olds, and people with disabilities, people who might struggle and you might not think that would want to take on this, and they all leave with a spoon. The classes are usually one-day classes. Occasionally we do a 2-day class, but most of the classes are 1 day. So they arrive in the morning and they go. So yes, there's lots of footpaths around here. There's miles and miles and miles of footpaths around here. I mean, if you're in the area, you're staying in the area and exploring the area, this could be part of your package of entertainment during your stay.
So Mark there doing his woodland experience, and these kind of woodland experiences and kind of reconnecting with nature are going to be so popular after as we come out this particular lockdown and we are able to travel again. So anything around about reconnecting with nature and wildlife and understanding of that, I think it's just going to be hugely popular. So I think Mark's going to be particularly busy. And the other thing I love about Mark's experience is that you get to take away the spoon as well, something that you make. And this is another key element of an experience, is whether it's my scones or a spoon, what have you, it's making something that you can take away. And Exmoor National Park, the ranger experience there, you get to make one of the signpost signs that they use on the trails as well. So on Exmoor, all the signs, the wooden signs, are used by local trees, from local trees, and then they're made by the rangers as well. So they're all handcraft, and you get on that experience to actually make your own Exmoor sign that you get to take away as well. So it's nice to have that little product that you can take away from your experience. I'm going to take you to Cornwall now, and this is a 2-day experience, and this is another area that we're seeing a real growth, and that's in the multi-day experiences, the 2-day experiences. So traditionally experiences have always been half-day to a full-day, and in the last year or so we're seeing the move to a 2-day experience where the accommodation is included in the experience. And this works particularly well if you're a campsite, a glamping site, or you've got a shepherd's hut, or you're a hotel, a small hotel or B&B. This is really great. So this experience is a surf, yoga and woodland wild camp, from axe throwing to enjoying a campfire and the surfing. That's all included in those 2 days for £169 for a person. So that's really great when you think about the accommodation and food, so your breakfast and everything is also included in that experience, and your tent's all nicely put up as well. So I can see this one being really popular after lockdown, when we can travel again. Just a word of warning there, when you are packaging an experience, and I really shouldn't use the word packaging, but when you're putting your experience together, it's to keep everything into one pricing. So for example, this experience, the accommodation, the food, the drink, the yoga, the surfing, all those elements of that experience have been included in that one fee. So you don't want to separate that and say, you know, the accommodation, the glamping part of that experience is separate. You want to avoid that, because there's lots of rules and regulations when you start separating accommodation from your experience. If you're going to have a 2-day experience, you need to include your accommodation within the experience price. I'm going to take you to the Lake District now, to the footsteps of Wainwright. This is a full-day experience at £99 for 6 hours, and you get to do the trails and the kind of the trails and the fells of Alfred Wainwright, and some of his favourite parts of the walk and the scenery and the landscape as well. And you get to also have traditional fish and chips as well on this experience, and also visit a traditional English pub as well. So it's really a trail kind of finding experience, connecting in with the local produce as well. It's a great outdoor activity. A bit of a cultural experience here, and this is Arty Footsteps again in Northumberland. This is very much around a guided walk that's creative, so you get to draw and paint the landscape. Lasts for 4 hours at £140 per person, and the guy here, Patrick, that runs the experience, is, you know, he knows his geography and the landscape so well, and you know, obviously he's an artist, and he connects that all together really, really well. So you could be a beginner, and you don't have to be, you know, somebody that already draws or paints, and you know, you can have an awful lot of fun looking and doing this type of experience. And again, you know, it's going to be really popular. It reconnects with nature and the natural environment, but also that creative and cultural aspect as well. And like all the experiences, it's got a link to the local producers, so it visits the local farm shop and cafe on that experience. Going to take you to Huckleberry Wood now, here in the Kent Downs AONB, and this is a farming kind of experience that can be developed, and it tells you the story there of what they currently offer.
Hello, welcome to Huckleberry Woods. My name's Belinda Neal.
And I'm Bill Neal.
Huckleberry Woods is a really unique animal attraction where we have everything is a micro or miniature animal. They're all harness trained, so people can take our animals for a walk in our beautiful orchard. And we set about creating a really calm and peaceful space for our visitors and for the animals. We started Huckleberry Woods in 2018, really looking for a complete change from our busy city lifestyles, and we wanted to help people make memories down here, really. So we moved to Faversham, and the rest is history. We're really looking forward to being part of the Experience project. Our experience that we're developing, hopefully with your help, is for people to have a much more immersive experience at Huckleberry Woods. So they'll come and stay on site in our little Airbnb, which is just over there, and they will be taking over husbandry for their choice of micro animal for the 3 days that they're here with us. So they'll be doing everything from feeding, mucking out, bonding with them. They'll be taking over, looking after the animals. So it's a massive one-to-one experience for them for 3 days. While they're here, we hope to be able to signpost them to the rest of what Faversham's got to offer. Faversham very often overlooked for Whitstable, which is just down the road, but Faversham has so much to offer. We've got creeks, restaurants, loads and loads of attractions. There is no reason to travel outside Faversham. We're on National Cycle Route 1 right here, so it's very easy for people to get about between all the activities in Faversham. What the Experience project will do for our business is really help us maintain busyness really over the winter months, which traditionally were a bit quieter, and certainly for the Airbnb it'd be fantastic to increase occupancy over the winter. So not only will it do that for our business, but actually from the animals' point of view, they really miss the interaction that they have from the visitors during spring and summer. They love it as part of their daily enrichment. So to have a family or a couple taking responsibility for loving the teddy bear sheep, for example, will just make a huge difference to the animals as well. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Hi Teddy, and over and out from Huckleberry Woods.
I love Teddy. So at Huckleberry Woods, they've got an experience there already that they're looking to develop a little bit further as well with the support of this program. So it's really good to hear, and it's good to hear they've got the accommodation, so they can definitely include that within their experience as well. So really exciting stuff there. So that was several examples of what others are doing across the country, but also here in Kent. But here's just kind of my top tips just to remember, if you kind of your takeaways really of this workshop today. And it's very much around the people, place and activity. So when you are developing your experience, you want to think about the people, the story, and that could be you, and just like we saw from the Rangers or from Mark or Martin there doing their woodland and fungus foray experiences. It's those stories and the background and the experience that you might have that you can bring to your experience, or others might bring to your experience as well. And it's the place, it's the landscape, it's the stories of nature, the wildlife and the heritage and the produce that come from that, and having that hands-on activity. So whether that's a bit like mine with the scone making, or a hands-on looking after the farm animals there we saw at Huckleberry Wood, is having that combination, people, place and activity, is a real key when developing your experience. And to come up with a story, and like all good stories, have a good start, middle and end, and stick to that story. Don't start verging off. Try and keep your story intact throughout your experience, so that is your product. And include something that's expected, but also the unexpected as well. That surprise element is always good to include. And of course, keep it simple and be flexible. As we've been hearing, each group is going to be different in your experience. You're going to market it in the various different ways, and so you might have different group sizes or different types of people or families or mixed groups, and you want to be able to do that as well. And if you in the future, if you're looking to work with the travel trade, especially the international travel trade, they would want to kind of work with you in adapting and creating that experience further as well. So you kind of want to think about that in the future, which obviously be supported throughout this project. So there's some top tips to remember when you come on to developing your new visitor experience. It's going to give you some stats now. These stats from Visit Britain, the tourist board for the for Britain, and these stats were 2019, so they were pre-pandemic. But this gives you a real sense and a real flavour of the growth of experiential tourism here in the UK. And first of all, we're going to look at the domestic market. So, as you'll see on the screen now, 22% of visitors in the UK domestic market choose the experience that they're going to do first and then found the destination. So this shows that more people are going online and choosing bookable experiences way before they head to a destination, but also they're looking more for the things they want to do, whether that's seal watching or surfing, yoga, or being a farmer for the day or a ranger for the day, what have you. They're looking for those types of experiences before they're necessarily choosing the destination. At 37%, choose the domestic market, choose the destination because of the experiences that they're going to. And finally, 41% are actually choosing the destination first and then finding the experience. And what that tells us that when you're being bookable online, you need to kind of be in as many places as possible, really. So you want to be with your local destination management organisation and work obviously with the Kent Downs AONB, and that's where people go to look for products and experiences in that region. And you also want to be bookable elsewhere on other sites, whether that's Unmissable England, Airbnb, Booking.com, what have you, Expedia. You want to be in those kind of places as well, where people might not necessarily know about the region or the area, may not think about it necessarily, but they want to go and have a go at doing that particular experience and want to create the memories of doing that experience. So that's the domestic market. If we compare that now to the inbound market, so this is the international market, you can see 17% choose the experience first, then found the destination. 33% again choose the destination because of the experience, and then 50% are choosing the destination first, so they're choosing where they want to go, and then the experience. So that's very much 50-50 when you combine the 17 and 33% of the people that choose the experience first, and then over that as well. So that just tells us more that about being bookable in several different places is always a good way of doing things. So that data there from Visit Britain around 2019. So things have changed, but as I say, and as I said all the way through this workshop, experiences are going to be the place to go because they're smaller groups. They are very fully immersive experiences. People want to reconnect with nature, so we're going to see those still real demand on experiences, first of all from the domestic audience. And talking about that demand, this is more data from Visit Britain. 65% of the domestic market book an experience way before leaving home. So again, this is real importance, the benefits of being bookable online when we look at that part of the process of once you've designed your experience, you want it to be bookable online so your guests can book in advance way before they leave home and be a part of that growing 65% that we're seeing, that trend of domestic market booking. We're also seeing a growth in international market, and obviously that will come back at some point over the next year or so, fingers crossed. So real opportunity there to be bookable online to grow your business. So I hope that's been a real flavour of experiential tourism and the world of experiences, and giving you a real flavour and a sense of the types of experiences, what others are doing right across the country, whether it's in a protected landscape or not. It just gives you a real good idea about the stories, the landscape, the produce, and all those things that connect, and the commodities that bring a great experience together. And I really look forward to working with you that kind of apply through this program and go on for our next steps in developing your next really immersive experience. I'm going to hand over now to Rebecca.
Thanks, Chris. So the next steps are, Chris, sorry, can you just pop onto the next slide? And the one after that. Right, okay, now, sorry, go back up to the previous one, thanks. So the next steps around Countryside Experience Programme, what that includes is a number of different activities for us to help you develop your experience. We will start off, so it is an application process. We will ask you to make an application. It's a simple form, and it's really about showing us your idea. Some of you will have a much more clearer idea and have it all worked up. That's brilliant. And some of you, it will be at an idea stage. So hopefully that application process will be able to cover you as well. Then we will run some experience maker workshops. Chris will run those. It will be a much longer session where we'll really be able to help you find those different aspects that Chris talked about at the start to put that experience together, and to think about what resources you may need, to think about how to price that, and all of those processes. You'll also get a toolkit out of that you can refer to afterwards. This will be followed up by one-to-one consultations. It's actually 1 to 2 consultations, and that will be with Chris and a member of the AONB Experience team. And again, we will sort out with you any further developments that you need to make or changes, and talk to you about taking your product to market. In terms of marketing, we'll help you put together content, including photography for your experience. We can do some product testing. And we're also putting together a new website, which is due to launch in June, whereby we can promote your experiences and create stories around them. We will also help you take that product to market. So working with our partners, which include Unmissable England and Chris, but also people like Airbnb Experiences, we'll be able to take you through that process of getting your product, your bookable product, online. We are also working with Visit Kent and their travel trade, so that if you then decide to start working with the travel trade, we can help you get your product ready, and we can take that and promote that to the travel trade and get you talking to each other as well. The final thing I wanted to talk to you about is that we will be setting up an equipment purchase support scheme. It will be a competitive process, and we will have a certain amount of funding to be able to help you buy any equipment that you require to set up your experience. And the criteria around that will be on that need for that equipment to set up your experience, and also the value of that equipment and the value of the experience that you're setting up. We won't be launching that until March, because we want to work with some of you who are able to put together an experience so that you know what equipment you might need. But please bear that in mind, that you will be able to apply for that purchase support. And then the other thing to mention with this development programme is that we are partnering with Visit Kent in the delivery of the Experience project in Kent. And so any experience that you develop with ours, we will want to brand it as a Kent Downs experience or a North Downs Way experience, because I recognise some of you here today are from Surrey along the North Downs Way. But we will also work with Visit Kent, and they will jointly be able to promote your product as well. We're also working with Visit Kent on jointly running networking sessions for experienced businesses and further training opportunities, which will cover everything from sustainability, digital marketing, business development, and generally networking with other people who are doing similar things. So I think that's a really strong package of support and business development. Next slide, please, Chris. So that's about this programme. This programme is part of a bigger Experience project, and this Experience project is a €23.3 million funded project by Interreg, European Interreg funded project. There are 6 project areas. There are 3 in the UK, so there's Kent, and there's Cornwall and Norfolk, and 3 in France, Brittany, Compiègne and Pas-de-Calais, who make up the partners. And as I say, we're in Kent, we are delivering this project with Visit Kent, and we also have a national partner in Cycling UK, who are working with us to develop cycling provision and hubs and support. We're also working with a number of districts and the North Downs Way, who are partnering with us in terms of working together and match funding. And the purpose of the Experience project is to develop this sustainable new tourism product to bring people to the area. It's off-season, it's greener travel, and it's a lower impact. So that's what the project overall is about. Other things that we are doing as part of the Kent Downs, so we're investing in the infrastructure in the North Downs Way, for example. So that's rest points, that's accessibility, that's paths. We are also investing in sculpture trails to produce a creative North Downs Way trail, and in the pilgrimage products and theme. We will be promoting routes and new itineraries, so expanding those routes to include businesses and other things to do to produce self-guided itineraries. We're also, as I said, we're doing some marketing, and we're currently undertaking research into the types of audiences that we think will be interested in what we're doing. We will be launching a new website, and we're running new campaigns. So the first one is this Find Your Space campaign, which we're running very low key at the moment, obviously, but we will be, hopefully, as the world opens up, we'll be expanding that. And then the last thing just to mention is our business support, and that's what this part of the Countryside Experience Development Scheme is part of. But there's further training that we're doing around welcoming walking and cyclists. We will be running North Downs Way ambassadors, and we want to do landscape and storytelling awareness days as well to help you tell your personal experience of working within the landscape, and the networking and some of the other webinars at Visit Kent. So hopefully that shows you that the Experience Development Scheme fits into a much larger programme of work that both ourselves and Visit Kent are doing to help promote sustainable tourism in the area. So in terms of next steps, I hope that our workshop today has given you some inspiration to develop an experience, some ideas through all those fantastic case studies of things that may be relevant to help you develop that, and also the information that you need as to what makes a great experience. And if you decide to apply for our scheme, then that will take you through further into developing that and taking it to market. There are 3 ways you can get involved. The first one is, if you go onto our website, you can complete an expression of interest, and that will tell me that you are interested in applying for this project, and I will then contact you and get to know you and give you all that application information. The second way is that we will be emailing everyone who's attended this webinar today with those application materials as well. So you will receive those anyway, and do have a look through them and come back to me if you have any questions. And the third way is to email me directly. Here's my email address. Do get in contact and I can send you those application details, or any of us can talk to you about your idea, or if you want to know any more information about the scheme as well. So do get in contact with us if you would like to know more, and those are the different ways that you can move forward to apply for our scheme. We have 20 places, we think it will be competitive, so if you are interested, do let us know. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And we do have some time now to ask any questions. If there is anything, I wonder if, Michaela, if there's anything that's come out of the chat that hasn't been answered, or if you could put anything into the chat. I need to open the chat box. And then myself, or more likely, Chris, will be able to answer those things for you. Chris, can you see that question? What sort of size of group do you think makes a good experience?
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Paul. So this is interesting. It depends on your experience, really, but I would say between kind of 6 and 8 is a good number. Anything over 8 is starting to become more of a tour, something that's not immersive. I have had experiences that have run around about 12 to 15 people. These are more kind of cycle kind of experiences, and that can work. But my advice would be to 6 to 8 people, to keep it really authentic, really immersive, so you can spend time with your guests, and that will show in your pricing as well.
Great, thanks, Chris. Is there any scope for cross-channel experiences in conjunction with Pas de Calais? Yeah, absolutely, possibly. So we are talking to our French partners all the time through this project. We are at different stages in terms of developing experiences and getting to know those businesses out there. So part of this project for us as well is to know what's out there, who's interested. So if that is something you're interested in, then absolutely let us know, and our partners will be doing the same. And then as we build up those contacts and their ideas, there may well certainly be ideas for cross-channel collaboration. I don't know whether Michaela or Catherine, there's anything you'd like to add to that, or Chris, of course. Good.
What I would say is that that the cross-channel collaboration, there are some really strong opportunities, I think, for businesses in the AONB and on the North Downs Way to collaborate. And they're doing some fantastic work across the channel and coming up with some really amazing ideas too. So I think there will be lots of opportunities for the businesses to work with our partners across the water.
Yeah, I think if you're interested in that kind of collaboration, you know, and you've got some ideas already, get in touch and we can discuss them, and we can raise them with our French partners as well.
Rebecca, there's a question from Carol. Does the size of the company have an influence on what's expected?
Not necessarily. I don't know whether you're referring to whether it's a big company or a small company. It's about the experience, and it's about whether it's a good quality experience. It doesn't matter whether that's your only thing that you do or whether it is part of a much bigger business that you have. So what I would say is get in touch. Let us know your idea. But no, there's not necessarily a limit on the sort of business. What we are interested in, though, is those experiences being sustainable experiences, and working, with us in that landscape protection and talking about nature and the landscape. So it's really about the experience. I can see another question. Is funding available for training courses as well as equipment purchase? It's not, I'm afraid. It does have to be capital funding for stuff. That's how our funding is set up. But it may be that the training courses, it may be something that we're looking at delivering anyway as part of the project. So again, let me know if there's something in particular that you're looking for. Do you not have snow? We do, yes, we have snow, but it's a little visual trick. We're not really all sitting on the beach, I'm afraid. Sorry to burst that bubble.
Just to let everybody know, this presentation will be shared as well, because I know that question came in earlier on as well, so you'll get a copy of the slides and also the videos as well.
Chris, here's one for you. How often does the experience have to take place? Weekly, monthly? How often do you find, how regularly are people delivering their experiences?
Absolutely, it depends on the size of your business. So if you're on your own running the experiences, or if you're a small organisation or a big organisation, it all depends on that. I mean, obviously, visitors, not in the normal world, they will come all at different parts of the week. So they don't classically just come at the weekend. So as much as the scheduling of your experience as possible that you can do, it would work the best, basically. But what I advise businesses to do, especially smaller ones to do, this is something I've done, is when you onboard your experience onto an online travel agent, you add your availability and you oversubscribe your availability of that experience. So say you might take 5 days a week and you put your days on there, but your aim is only to run one experience a week. So once you get a booking, a bite of one of the experiences, you take down the other experiences where you have no bookings, and then you put all your emphasis on that one experience. So you kind of put your stock up first of all, not expecting people just to book, because you can do it one Monday once a month. That's not gonna work. So you kind of need to oversubscribe your scheduling, your booking, and then once one bites, when you've got a booking, you then remove the other ones. Tactics.
Right, I can't see any other questions popping up. As I say, do you get in contact with us or on our website, through our website, or directly with us? And I do hope you'll think about applying. We really encourage you to do so. We're really excited about this. We hope that you're excited about it too. So I will leave you to your thoughts. And again, thanks everyone for joining us. And thank you, Chris, for your input as well.